Ladies and gentlemen, what you're about to hear will make your blood boil. Just days before Christmas, while Americans prepare to celebrate with their families, Joe Biden has unleashed the most shocking pardon spree in modern history. Child killers, mass murderers, all getting a gift from Biden. But that's not all. Tonight we're exposing how Liz Cheney, exposed by the J6 interim report, might be next in line for Biden's pardon parade. The revelations in this congressional report are so damning, so explosive, the mainstream media won't even touch them. And with Biden's shocking pardons raising America's collective blood pressure, it's crucial to protect your health. That's why I trust GlycoBoost's revolutionary formula to manage blood pressure naturally. This triple action supplement helps regulate blood pressure levels, supports balanced blood sugar, and reduces bad cholesterol. So don't let the stress of political chaos affect your health. Visit boostwithgary.com and save up to 40% during the holiday special. Plus, get free rushed delivery when you order today. Take control of your health while we fight to take back our country. That's boostwithgary.com. All right, so Donald Trump posting to Truth Social. Liz Cheney has been exposed in the interim report by Congress of the J6 Unselect Committee as having done egregious, unthinkable acts of crime. This is Donald Trump posting this. At the same time, however, she helped the Democrats lose the election by giving her support. She is so unpopular and disgusting. A real loser. Donald Trump. Not holding back on exposing Liz Cheney. The latest posting of what Trump thinks of Liz Cheney, do you think that Biden needs to give her a preemptive presidential pardon? Well, you know she's on the list, right? John Gentile, if they haven't done anything wrong, why ask for a pardon? Liz Cheney, Speaker Pelosi, Adam Kinzinger, Mike Engelman. Members of the J6 Select Committee are now asking for pardons. Who agrees? No pardons, but instead they should be investigated and prosecuted for crimes, found, and then sent to prison, including Nancy Pelosi, zero immunity. Mike Engelman. Wow. And then we have this. Liz Cheney lost her immunity this week. She's the most exposed and likely the first indicted. Destruction of evidence and witness tampering gives her prison time. Let's see what Mark Levin had to say about this.
Trying to influence the report, the January 6th committee. And I read this report, and it is so bad what was taking place in this committee, what they were trying to do to Donald Trump, how they were manipulating witnesses and testimony.
Wow.
How they were censoring information, and the massive destruction. I mean, it is a massive amount of information that was destroyed, how they're trying to influence the criminal justice system. Congressman Barry Loudermilk is the chairman of this effort. It seems to me, from my own background, that when the Trump administration steps in, there needs to be a federal grand jury that looks into the potential violation of federal laws here, because this is no joke. When you have a committee of Congress trying to instigate criminal investigations, you had two people, Steve Bannon and Peter Navarro, who actually went to federal prison as a result of referrals from this committee. And what took place here should never take place again against any president or former president of the United States. Do you agree? I mean, if they want to play in the criminal realm, then the criminal realm is where we ought to play.
Well, that's true. And, we've been asked all along as we've uncovered things and as you've covered this so well throughout the last 2 years, what about accountability? And my response has always been, well, that is something that is really an executive branch because we don't have law enforcement capability, but I would never trust this Department of Justice to hand out justice equally. So they've proven that they will not. But now we're moving into a new era, and with the Trump Department of Justice, they can move forward with this. That's why we made a recommendation that the Department of Justice investigate Liz Cheney for potential violations of federal law. And I'm only using Liz's own standards that she used. If you go back to July of 2022, in one of their televised hearings, Liz Cheney started talking about Donald Trump making a phone call to one of their witnesses. It wasn't even successful. He just attempted to make a phone call to someone they had interviewed. She then referred that to the Department of Justice of potential witness tampering, just because he attempted to make a phone call. Now compare that to what we have the evidence that Liz Cheney actually did. She did communicate with Cassidy Hutchinson. She did acknowledge that it was inappropriate communications. After she communicated with Cassidy Hutchinson then changed her testimony. And then, according to Cassidy Hutchinson, Liz Cheney did encourage her to fire her previous attorney, Stefan Passantino. Then Liz Cheney did help her find a new attorney. And then Liz Cheney did try to get Stefan Passantino disbarred in Georgia and D.C. So these are the things that she did, but she said just because Donald Trump attempted to make a phone call, then he should be investigated. This is why we're saying, look, I can't make that determination, but the Department of Justice can.
Well, I can't imagine she has anything to hide. They just destroyed a zillion pieces of data and video and so forth and so on. Right. Seems to me Nancy Pelosi needs to be examined. A number of these people need to be examined because there was a lot going on in the shadows here. People were giving orders. Somebody gave orders to destroy all this information. Somebody gave orders to try and influence witnesses. Somebody gave orders to try and prevent other witnesses from giving timely testimony. Somebody called in Hollywood to create these productions. We cannot have these Stalinist-type events and then pretend it's okay because the media are on the side of the Stalinists. That cannot go on. Barry Loudermilk, I want to thank you, your staff. You've done
amazing. Yeah, so that report is bad. Criminal referrals. And then this was a couple days ago. It bears repeating. Adam Schiff and Swalwell leaked classified documents. They're on the pardon list as well. And Amuse writing, why didn't the DOJ bother to tell us that after a 3-year FBI investigation, a grand jury determined that Reps Schiff and Swalwell leaked classified documents to the press? Why didn't they prosecute the leakers? The DOJ IG is asking the same questions. And then we have this. On April 16th, 2024, Merrick Garland testified to Congress and was asked about Biden's fitness. Okay, that's why all these pardons are going to be called into question. I could not have more confidence in the president, Merrick Garland. 95 days after his testimony, Joe Biden was forced to drop out of the presidential election. Yeah. Forced to drop out. Those that were in Biden's cabinet who deliberately lied about Biden's fitness need to be held accountable. I believe there needs to be an investigation and to find out who had been making presidential decisions since 2020. Listen.
The president. But as a member of the president's cabinet, someone who has regular contact with the president, would you like to comment on President Biden's fitness generally?
I have complete confidence in the president.
Look, if we finally beat Medicare.
I have watched him expertly guide meetings of staff and cabinet members.
It's a clown show. It is an absolute clown show in the administration. Thank God it's almost over. This is on the 12th of December. According to sources, Joe Biden commuted roughly 1,500 sentences and granted 39 pardons in what's described as the largest single-day act of clemency in modern U.S. history. And here's Brigitte Gabriel, and she posts this clip from CBS Face the Nation. Things are bad for Joe Biden when his own party is turning on him for his pardons, including his son. The American people should never trust another Democrat to be president. Listen to this.
A man who committed this past week, he had this record number of commutations, 1,500 Americans, more than any president in any single day. Among them, though, there was a judge involved in a so-called cash for kids scheme that sent thousands of kids to jail for millions of dollars. A man who committed tax fraud at a cost of more than $1.6 billion, described as the most prolific, pernicious, utterly unrepented tax cheat in U.S. history. A woman who was involved in a $26 million scheme to defraud Medicare. Are you comfortable with some of these decisions?
No. There's also a man in Duluth that was running a major drug house, basically, and had all this money under his bathroom tiles, was also commuted. So the way I look at this is I also didn't agree with the pardon of the president's son.
Yeah, so Biden's own party is turning on him. People asking the question, how is it that Joe Biden was deemed unfit to be charged in his classified document inquiry, but is somehow fit to issue pardons and commute sentences? And then we have this from Fox News, a bunch of fear-mongering. Stephen A. Smith expresses regret after voting for Democrats in the election, saying, "I don't like the fact that I did." ESPN star blasted the party on key issues, including Hunter Biden's pardon, open border policies, and defund the police rhetoric. Oh, and they're all seeing the light now.
I don't think anybody could dismiss Donald Trump at this particular moment in time, not just because of him, but because of what we've seen the Democrats do. We're not falling for it any longer. The American people aren't falling for it any longer. I voted Democrat, and I got to tell you something right now. I don't like the fact that I did. I don't like what I'm seeing. I don't want to hear about, we're about a law. Nobody's above the law. Nobody's above the law. But then you go out and you pardon your son, and you try to blame everybody else for it. I don't want to hear about defund the police. I don't want to hear about, there should be open borders. I don't want to hear this stuff. And I don't think most of the American people want to hear that. And I'm no longer interested in, nor do I believe any of us should be interested in listening to a bunch of fear-mongering to tell us who we shouldn't vote for. Why don't you come up with a plan that tells us why we should vote for you?
Wow. It's all coming crashing down. James Woods, 11 hours ago, it is appropriate that Joseph Biden would pardon that. And yes, I know technically it's a commutation to life without parole, but don't worry, the liberals will be working hard to get him out, so it might as well be a pardon. Biden is a disgusting human being. Judicial Watch, 14 hours ago, Joe Biden's part of Hunter perfectly fits the Biden family's corruption arc. The pardon is about protecting Joe Biden and helping ensure his son will be less likely to testify against him. Biden is the most corrupt president since he was VP. Judicial Watch, Tom Fitton. Eric Schmidt, Biden's actions over the last 2 weeks, this was 10 hours ago, 2 weeks on pardons and commutations are indefensible. It's clear he cares more about violent criminals than victims. 12-year-old Lexis Roberts witnessed her mother's execution at the hands of Thomas Sanders before he did. Oh, my goodness. And Biden commuted his sentence. Oh, my goodness.
Let her die. And it's important, as a former prosecutor myself, I think it's important to talk about the victims here. Lexis Roberts went on a camping trip with her mother and Thomas Sanders. Thomas Sanders, on the way back, took her mother out and executed her in cold blood in front of Lexis, then slit Lexis Roberts' throat and let her die in the woods. This is someone that Joe Biden, on the eve of Christmas, decided to commute his sentence. This is nuts. This is totally nuts. And so the outrage is real. It's justified. And again, Joe Biden on his way out is, again, cementing his status as one of our worst presidents. Well, it's important.
Yeah, that's all part of it. And remember this, who can forget this about the preemptive pardons?
Such an unusual, some of the names that have been floated around preemptive pardons, since it would just be such an unusual, extraordinary step. We talked about in the news, we've seen Liz Cheney, Dr. Fauci.
You're talking about the preemptive pardoning.
Right. I understand you don't want to get ahead of the president's thinking, but are any of those names wrong or still? Can you tell us? I mean, do you want to tell us anything about?
It would be a bad move on my behalf if I preempted the president or previewed anything that the president was thinking about, considering, and so this is something that he's going to talk with his team about, and I just don't have anything beyond that for you.
Yeah, he's going to talk to Liz Cheney. He'll talk to Adam Schiff and Nancy Pelosi. This guy, Joey, he says the good news, Biden didn't pardon the Boston bomber, Tree of Life synagogue shooter, or the Charleston church shooter. The bad news is Biden did pardon 5 child killers and 32 mass murderers. How is it that Joe was deemed too senile to be charged for stealing classified documents, but still is somehow fit to issue pardons and commute sentences? I am Ken. I wonder how much Biden will charge Liz Cheney for that pardon, right? Here is August 2024. This shows you, I mean, this guy should be investigated too. I mean, the lying that comes out of Washington, D.C., and the cover-up of Joe Biden's mental capacity. Top video is Senator Coons explaining Biden's bad debate performance was because he was sick. He was traveling too much. Bottom, December 2024, Coons explains that Biden's bad debate performance caused him to question Biden's fitness to serve a second term. I think that what we're seeing here is literally they're covering their ass. After the Wall Street Journal report came out, after the James O'Keefe Media Group undercover video came out, now they realize they can't run. They can't hide from this anymore.
I'm saying that after what was an admittedly very bad debate performance, he was sick, he had traveled too much, he did not perform well, that he reevaluated his path forward as a candidate when over the next 3 weeks, as he gave interview after interview, speech after speech, rally after rally, the media wouldn't let him move on.
You told Fox this week that you didn't realize that there might be something wrong until our debate. Looking back, are you comfortable with your support, the fact that you were a co-chair of his campaign, the whole thing?
I still support Joe Biden. I think he's a compassionate and decent man who has been a consequential president. But that was true. The first time I saw or heard anything that made me really question his fitness to serve a second term was that debate.
What do you know? Yeah, they're all covering their ass now because they cannot escape. And Johnny Midnight posts this meme. I think Trump has grounds in court to have Biden's pardons and other executive orders removed. It can be easily proven he was not of sound mind and made the decisions himself. What are your thoughts? And he posts this picture of President Trump pushing Joe Biden in a wheelchair. Salty Goat posting this meme of Liz Cheney behind bars with the words, "Soon, Liz, soon." Yeah, we would all love to see it. And Tom Cotton, he's also on the front lines of this whole thing. And I brought this up when we were discussing, Biden's mental capacity and signing these pardons. Well, now Tom Cotton's on it too. Contracts, wills, and other legal actions are null and void if a party is mentally incompetent, as Joe Biden obviously is. This is Senator Tom Cotton. The Congress and the Trump Department of Justice should investigate whether these pardons for depraved murderers are binding. Who is making these decisions? Juanita Broderick, I completely agree these pardons are disgusting. Senator Tom Cotton calls for President Trump's DOJ to investigate the pardons issued by President Biden. Oh, and I think we got video of that as well. A sheriff also blasting the commuting of killers in the St. Lucie County murders earned the right to die. That's what he says. Charlie Kirk, I'm increasingly worried Biden is going to blanket pardon every single illegal alien in the country before he leaves office. Yeah, that has actually been discussed. Stephen Chung, Biden commuted the sentences of 2 monsters who killed an entire family in Florida, including a 4-year-old and a 3-year-old in cold blood. Cernovich posting this. Biden didn't issue these pardons and let death row inmates get away with killing children. Someone inside the DOJ did. An incoming Pam Bondi needs to get to the bottom of this and name every sick individual who helped child killers get away with their depraved crimes. And the victims are shocked after Biden grants clemencies to Kid for Cash judge and $54 million embezzler. I mean, the blowback is massive. Here is Tom Cotton right here. Today, Senate Democrats blocked my resolution condemning Joe Biden's egregious misuse of presidential pardon power. This is how they want to end their time as a majority, weak and shameless. Before we get to that, let's take a look at this was posted 6 hours ago by the Trump War Room. While Americans struggle during the Christmas season, crooked Joe Biden commuted the sentences of nearly all the monsters on federal death row.
In his statement,
more on all this, Alexandra.
Hi, John. Good to be with you. Another person on that list was convicted for killing 12 people in Philadelphia. That included 4 children. Now, President Biden says that he condemns these murderers and grieves for the victims' families, but added this in his statement, quote, in good conscience, I cannot stand back and let a new administration resume executions that I halted. Now, Republican Congresswoman Nicole Malliotakis, she responded in part saying, instead of death row, these monsters will rot in jail for life at taxpayer expense. More coal for crime victims on his way out. Now, exempt from these downgraded sentences were those who committed acts of terrorism or mass murders fueled by hate. That is Boston Marathon bomber Zohar Tsarnaev, Charleston church shooter Dylan Roof, and Pittsburgh synagogue shooter Robert Bauer. So those are exempt from the list. But the names included in the president's first round of mass clemency, remember that 1,500 more than so, prompted several Democrats even to sound off.
I have no doubt there were some righteous pardons in this group. Okay, let's say that. I believe that there were. But there were a number that I think make no sense at all.
So there was bipartisan pushback on that. For example, Kids for Cash scandal judge Michael Conahan, who's convicted of receiving kickbacks for sending children to for-profit detention centers. One mother whose son died by suicide after being locked up for months for being at an underage drinking party told Fox that she was shocked and hurt that the judge's sentence was commuted.
Joe Biden came here and campaigned multiple times that he was, Joe Scranton. He was one of us. He knew of our struggles and he cared about our community and our kids and our families. And that is just absolutely not true. He is not one of us.
And this just in from the Trump team responding to the death penalty pardons, telling Fox News, we're summarizing here, that this was an abhorrent decision by President Biden. They continue on that the rule of law will soon return here to the White House. John.
Amen. I hope so. Bill Ackman, how can a president with cognitive issues be allowed to abuse the pardon power? This is the danger of not using the 25th Amendment. Who and why is choosing these candidates to pardon? It can't be Biden. The public has the right to know the logic for these pardons. And he quote tweeted the New York Post. Biden granting clemency to the Maryland black widow alleged to have murdered 3 lovers for insurance money. Yeah, that was 10 hours ago, posted by Jack Posobiec. Now let's take a listen to what Tom Cotton had to say.
Action, Joe Biden didn't just...
Senator from Arkansas.
Last week, Joe Biden commuted the sentences of nearly 1,500 convicted criminals, including drug dealers, fraudsters, and corrupt public officials. These are not sympathetic figures. These are individuals who stole from the poor and poisoned the sick. They tore families apart and menaced communities. They were sent to jail. They belong in jail. With this action, Joe Biden didn't just reward 1,500 criminals, he robbed hundreds of thousands of victims of the closure and justice they deserve. The cruelty of these commutations is only matched by the shameless incompetence of the administration that issued them. This administration admitted that Joe Biden didn't individually review these cases, or for that matter, anyone else individually reviewed the cases. Yet he nullified the verdict of thousands of jurors and judges anyway. He also disrespected the countless man-hours that federal law enforcement and prosecutors dedicated to solving these cases. The whole purpose of the presidential pardon power is to correct individual and limited failures of the criminal justice system. It's in the nature of the power in government itself. We are a legislature. We make generally applicable, prospective laws for everyone. Can those laws, in certain cases, yield unjust outcomes? Yes, of course. That is the nature of the legislative power. The reason an executive has the pardon power is to mitigate that injustice in specific, particular cases. It's not to make generally applicable pardons in a broad set of parameters, as White House officials have caused it. Certainly not to blindly free hundreds of duly convicted criminals. These blanket commutations demonstrate a gross contempt for our legal system and its traditions.
Tom Cotton is on point, and we definitely need to investigate all of these. Investigate Trump, President Trump. Tom Cotton calls for President Trump's DOJ to investigate pardons issued by President Biden. Do you guys agree with that? I mean, this is a picture I would love to see. Liz Cheney behind bars. But that's where we're at, folks. Joe Biden and these pardons, Liz Cheney being exposed. Unbelievable. But what we've uncovered tonight, it's not just about pardons or politics, it's about the fundamental corruption of our justice system. While Biden rushes to pardon violent criminals and possibly preemptively protect Liz Cheney, the truth about the January 6th committee is finally coming to light. The congressional interim report has exposed what many of us have suspected all along, a coordinated effort to undermine our republic. And now, as our house of cards collapses, they're scrambling for protection. So here's what I want to know from you. Should Trump's Department of Justice investigate these pardons for potential abuse of power once he takes office? Tell us your thoughts in the comments below. And while you're fighting for justice, show your support with our new MAG Avengers collection at shop.nextnewsnetwork.com. Let everyone know where you stand.